She grew up in a small town where everyone seemed to know everyone else's business. Her family was not poor, but they were far from rich, and her parents worked tirelessly just to keep the house running. They loved her, of course, but life had a way of teaching harsh lessons early on. From the moment she could remember, people had opinions about her. Some were kind, but most were cruel in ways that made her doubt herself. Her clothes were never fashionable enough. Her hair was never right. And her dreams were always too big for a girl from her neighborhood. In school, she tried her best to fit in. She wanted to make friends and be part of the group, but it seemed like every time she tried, someone found a reason to mock her. It could be the way she spoke, the books she carried, or even the quiet way she sat during lunch. Every insult left a sting, and at first she didn't know how to respond. She would go home, retreat to her small room, and let the words echo in her mind until she felt smaller, weaker, and less important than everyone else. Her earliest memory of being humiliated came during a classroom presentation. She had prepared for days, writing her speech carefully and practicing until she could say it without stumbling. But when she stood in front of the class, she noticed the snickers and rolled eyes almost immediately. One classmate whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Why are you even trying? You'll just mess it up." She froze, her heart pounding, cheeks burning with embarrassment. She finished the presentation, but every word felt heavy and wrong. When she returned to her seat, she wanted nothing more than to disappear. At home, she often tried to explain her day, hoping for comfort. Her parents would listen and nod, but they were tired from work and sometimes didn't fully understand the depth of what she was feeling. It was not that they didn't care, they cared deeply, but their world was practical and focused on survival, not the subtleties of teenage cruelty. She started to realize that if she wanted to protect herself, she would have to do it on her own. Outside of school, she tried joining clubs and activities. She thought maybe if she excelled somewhere, people would stop laughing or whispering about her. She loved painting and would spend hours creating small pieces she hoped would impress others. Yet even there, someone would always find a way to put her down. "That looks like a child drew it," one person said once during an art exhibition. Another time, at a music recital, someone laughed when her notes were slightly off. The pain was constant, and it began to feel like it would never end. She began to notice patterns. People seemed to enjoy pointing out flaws, even tiny ones. At first, it crushed her, leaving her afraid to try anything new. But slowly, a different feeling started to grow alongside the hurt. It was a quiet anger, a desire to prove that they were wrong, that she was capable, and that their words could not define her. She didn't understand it fully yet, but it was a seed of determination, small but stubborn, taking root in the middle of all the pain. Her nights became a mixture of tears and secret plans. While everyone else thought she was just another quiet girl, she scribbled ideas in her notebooks, dreaming of accomplishments they couldn't imagine. She wrote stories, painted images, and even imagined herself speaking confidently to crowds of people, sharing her ideas and experiences. These dreams were fragile and hidden, because if anyone found out, they would surely laugh. Yet she held on to them tightly. High school brought new challenges. The insults changed form. Now it wasn't just classmates. Teachers could be dismissive, and social media made every failure public. A post that was supposed to be a simple note about a school project could suddenly turn into dozens of comments mocking her effort. She felt exposed in a way that was exhausting, but she also began to notice that some people's words, as cruel as they were, had no real power if she didn't give them power. This realization was small at first, but important. She couldn't control what others said, but she could control how it affected her. One rainy afternoon, she walked home from school, soaked and exhausted after another long day of insults and judgment. She passed a small bookstore she had always admired from afar but never entered. On a whim, she went inside. The smell of paper and ink, the quiet atmosphere, and the rows of books made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. She spent hours wandering the aisles, picking up books about women who had changed the world, people who had faced incredible obstacles and still succeeded. She read about scientists, writers, and activists, many of whom had faced ridicule similar to hers. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope, a faint but undeniable idea that maybe, just maybe, she could rise above the words that had haunted her for so long. Encouraged, she started small. She set little goals for herself, things that no one would notice at first. She finished reading books she thought were too hard for her, practiced drawing more consistently, and even started writing short essays and stories that expressed her thoughts and feelings. Each small achievement felt like a victory, a secret rebellion against the world that had tried to belittle her. Slowly, she began to feel a sense of control over her life and her emotions, a feeling she had rarely experienced before. She also began to understand people differently. The ones who insulted her were often struggling with their own insecurities. It didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped her see that the world was complicated and that cruelty often came from pain. This understanding didn't make her tolerate abuse, but it allowed her to keep her dignity intact. She could choose how to respond, and that choice was powerful. By the time she reached the end of high school, she had developed a quiet resilience. She was not yet the confident, unstoppable person she would become, but the foundation was there. She had learned to listen to her own voice more than the voices of those who sought to tear her down. She had learned that every insult could either break her or fuel her determination, and she had begun choosing the latter. Her family began to notice subtle changes. They saw her spending hours on her writing and artwork, saw her smile more often despite the challenges, and noticed a new determination in her eyes. Friends, too, started to recognize her growing confidence. It was not loud or boastful. It was quiet, steady, and powerful in its own way. Looking back on those early years, she realized that the insults and ridicule had shaped her in ways she could never have imagined. Each harsh word had forced her to look inward, to find strength she didn't know she possessed. She had begun to understand that success was not just about talent or opportunity. It was about persistence, resilience, and the ability to turn adversity into growth. By the end of this period in her life, she was no longer the fragile, hurt girl who had once hidden in her room, crying over cruel words. She was someone who carried scars, yes, but also a quiet fire that burned brighter with every challenge. She had learned the first lesson that would guide her for the rest of her life: that insults, no matter how painful, could be transformed into inspiration if she refused to let them define her. And so, with a heart full of determination, notebooks filled with ideas, and a growing sense of self, she prepared to step into the next chapter of her life. She did not know exactly what awaited her, but she knew one thing with certainty: the world would no longer dictate her worth, and she was ready to prove it one small victory at a time. After high school, she stepped into the world beyond the small town that had shaped her early life. It was a new place with new faces, new challenges, and new opportunities. She had always dreamed of going to a big city for college, and now she was finally there, walking through streets filled with people who seemed to move with purpose, ambition, and confidence. The city felt alive, but it also felt intimidating. She had left behind a familiar world of insults and whispers, but she knew that new challenges would not wait long to find her. College life was a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The classrooms were bigger, the professors stricter, and the expectations higher. She tried her best to keep up, but the feeling of being judged never completely disappeared. Some classmates were welcoming, but others could be cruel in subtle ways. A classmate would roll their eyes when she asked a question, or a group project partner would dismiss her ideas without explanation. Each small insult reminded her of the old days, and sometimes the old feelings of self-doubt crept back in. She spent late nights studying, determined not to fall behind. She would sit in the library long after it had emptied, poring over her books, making notes, and refining her understanding. She realized that no one could take her knowledge away. No one could mock the effort she put into learning. Slowly, this realization began to shift something inside her. The insults from others no longer had the same power. They could speak, judge, and laugh. But the work she did for herself was hers alone. One day, she experienced a moment that almost made her lose faith. During a group presentation, one of her classmates interrupted her multiple times, mocking her accent and making sarcastic remarks. She felt herself freezing, her confidence shaken. After the presentation, she wanted to run away and never speak in front of people again. But something inside her refused to let that happen. She went back to her dorm room, took a deep breath, and wrote down every insult, every jab, and every moment of embarrassment. Then she wrote her response, not aloud, not for anyone else, but on paper for herself. She transformed the pain into words, and by the end of the night she felt lighter, stronger, and more determined. As weeks passed, she began to notice small victories. She started volunteering for class discussions, slowly at first, testing the waters. Each time she spoke, she reminded herself that the words of those who doubted her did not define her abilities. She practiced relentlessly, rehearsing speeches, presentations, and even casual conversations until she felt confident. With each success, no matter how small, she built a shield against the negativity around her. Outside the classroom, she faced new social challenges. The city was vast and making friends was not easy. Some people were kind, others judgmental, and some openly hostile. On several occasions, she felt invisible, ignored, or belittled. There were nights when she sat alone in her room, thinking about whether she had made the right choice by leaving home. Yet every time the doubt threatened to overwhelm her, she reminded herself of why she had come. She wanted to grow, to learn, and to become someone who could stand tall despite the opinions of others. One turning point came when she joined a student organization related to her field of study. She was nervous during the first meeting, worried that she would say something wrong or appear foolish. But as she participated, she realized that the group valued ideas and effort more than perfection. She began contributing actively, sharing her insights and volunteering for tasks others avoided. Slowly, she earned respect, not because she demanded it, but because she demonstrated commitment and intelligence. However, not all challenges disappeared. She still encountered people who tried to put her down, sometimes subtly, sometimes openly. Once, a classmate made a sarcastic comment about her writing, saying it was too simplistic for someone aiming for excellence. Instead of reacting with anger or retreating, she chose to see it differently. She spent hours analyzing her work, improving it, and submitting it for a student publication. When her essay was published and received positive feedback, she realized that criticism could be a tool, not a weapon. Insults could either hurt or motivate, and she was learning to choose the latter. As she grew more confident academically, she also explored personal growth. She began journaling her thoughts, expressing emotions she had once hidden, and reflecting on experiences that had shaped her. This habit helped her process the daily challenges of college life and transform negative experiences into lessons. She discovered that self-awareness was a powerful ally, allowing her to understand not just her own feelings, but also the motivations and insecurities of others. Her family, though far away, continued to support her. They called regularly, and sometimes she would share stories of both her struggles and victories. Her parents noticed the change in her voice and demeanor. She sounded more assured, more resilient, and more in control of her emotions. They were proud, but they also saw that she was learning to navigate the world on her own terms. Their occasional advice reminded her of home, while her experiences in the city taught her independence. Social media was another battlefield. In high school, online ridicule had been relentless, and she feared that college would bring more of the same. At first, she hesitated to share anything online, worried about judgment. But slowly, she found communities that encouraged growth and learning. She connected with like-minded people, shared her thoughts and experiences, and received genuine support. These connections were different. They were a source of inspiration, proof that the world contained kindness alongside cruelty. She also learned the importance of setting boundaries. Some people were toxic, and she realized that engaging with them only drained her energy. Instead, she focused on relationships that nurtured growth, mutual respect, and encouragement. She discovered that her time and attention were precious, and she chose carefully where to invest them. This discernment became another form of protection, helping her maintain her mental and emotional health. The turning point in her personal growth was subtle but profound. One evening, after completing a long project, she sat in her dorm room reflecting on her journey. She realized how far she had come, from the shy, insecure girl who had spent hours crying over insults to someone capable of standing firm in the face of judgment. She acknowledged the power of her own resilience, understanding that each challenge had strengthened her determination, sharpened her mind, and clarified her purpose. By the end of her first year, she had not only survived but thrived. She had learned that failure was not the opposite of success, but a part of it. Each insult, each judgment, each moment of doubt had contributed to her growth. She had begun to see the world not as a place that could diminish her, but as a canvas on which she could paint her own path. Her dreams, once fragile and hidden, were now bold and visible, guiding her through the city streets and the classrooms she navigated each day. She began to mentor younger students who faced similar struggles, sharing her experiences and encouraging them to persevere. She became a quiet leader, someone others could turn to for advice and support. Through these interactions, she realized that turning insults into inspiration was not just about personal growth. It was about creating a ripple effect, helping others transform pain into strength. Looking back, she understood that college had been a test of more than academics. It had tested her resilience, patience, and ability to rise above negativity. Each obstacle, each judgment, each moment of self-doubt had contributed to a stronger, more confident version of herself. She had not only survived the insults and challenges, but had learned to use them as fuel for personal and professional growth. Her first-year journey in the city ended with a quiet sense of accomplishment. She had faced harsh criticism, social isolation, and moments of self-doubt, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The insults that once threatened to define her had become stepping stones toward her aspirations. She had discovered the power of resilience, the importance of self-belief, and the strength that comes from transforming adversity into motivation. And so, as she prepared to enter her second year, she carried with her a newfound sense of purpose. She knew that challenges would continue to arise, that not everyone would support her, and that insults might still cross her path. But she also knew that she had the power to choose her response, to turn negativity into fuel, and to keep moving forward. The girl who had once felt small and powerless was becoming a woman who could face the world with courage, determination, and unwavering belief in her own potential. As her college years progressed, she began to notice something powerful happening inside herself. The young woman who had once trembled at every sarcastic comment, every whispered insult, was slowly transforming. The city that had seemed so intimidating at first now felt like a place of opportunity, rather than fear. She had discovered that the world would always have critics, but their opinions only held power if she let them. She was learning to use criticism not as a barrier, but as fuel for growth. One particular semester proved to be a turning point. She enrolled in a challenging course, one that many students had warned her would be nearly impossible to pass. The first day, the professor was strict and intimidating, setting high expectations and making it clear that only effort combined with intelligence would suffice. Her classmates, too, seemed competitive and confident, which reminded her of the times she had been mocked back in her small town. At first, she felt the familiar pangs of doubt, wondering if she truly belonged in this environment. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of everything she had already overcome. She began dedicating extra hours to studying. Every night she pored over textbooks, practiced problem sets, and rewrote notes until concepts became clear. Whenever she felt frustration creeping in, she reminded herself of the insults that had once hurt her. Now, instead of breaking her spirit, they were reminders that she had the strength to persevere. Slowly, she began to notice progress. Complex topics that had seemed impossible were becoming understandable. Tasks that once intimidated her were now challenges she could face with patience and focus. Outside the classroom, her personal growth became even more evident. She started joining discussion groups and workshops that encouraged creativity and innovation. Initially, she hesitated, worried that others might laugh at her ideas. But she noticed that when she spoke with genuine passion, people listened. Slowly, she gained confidence in expressing her thoughts and presenting her work. Her voice, once quiet and unsure, began to carry conviction. She realized that confidence was not about silencing critics. It was about trusting yourself enough to move forward despite them. Her growing confidence led her to take on leadership roles in student organizations. She volunteered to coordinate events, manage projects, and mentor younger students. At first, some people doubted her abilities, remembering her as the shy girl who had struggled in earlier years. But her consistent effort, commitment, and determination won them over. She proved not by words, but by action, that she could handle responsibility and lead with both intelligence and empathy. One day, a significant challenge arose that tested her resolve. A group project she had worked on for weeks faced harsh criticism from a professor. The feedback was blunt, and at first it felt like a personal attack. Memories of past insults surfaced, threatening to shake her confidence. But instead of giving in, she analyzed the critique objectively, identifying areas for improvement. She and her team worked tirelessly to revise the project, paying attention to every detail. When the project was resubmitted, it received high praise, and the professor even highlighted their effort as an example for other students. That moment became a milestone for her. She realized that persistence coupled with openness to learning could transform setbacks into victories. Her personal life also underwent significant growth. She formed friendships with people who valued honesty, encouragement, and mutual respect. These friends became her support system, celebrating her achievements and offering guidance during moments of doubt. For the first time, she understood the importance of surrounding herself with positive influences. It was not about avoiding criticism entirely, but about choosing relationships that nurtured growth rather than harm. During this period, she also discovered the power of sharing her experiences. She began volunteering at local community centers, speaking to young girls who faced similar challenges. She told them about her own journey, emphasizing that insults and criticism were not markers of their worth. She showed them how to turn negativity into motivation, sharing practical tips on perseverance, self-expression, and personal growth. The impact of these sessions was immediate and profound. Seeing young girls inspired and empowered reminded her of the path she had walked, and it strengthened her sense of purpose. Academically, she began exploring her own interests with a deeper focus. She chose research topics that fascinated her, even if they were unconventional. She dedicated time to mastering skills that others overlooked, building expertise in areas that could set her apart in the professional world. With every achievement, she felt the echoes of past insults fading, replaced by confidence in her abilities. She understood that excellence was not about proving others wrong. It was about fulfilling her own potential. One unforgettable experience occurred when she was invited to present at a student conference. Standing before an audience of peers and faculty, she felt the familiar flutter of nerves. She remembered the times she had stumbled in front of classmates, the times someone had mocked her efforts, but she also remembered the hours she had spent preparing, the countless nights of practice and refinement. When she began speaking, her voice was steady, clear, and passionate. The audience responded with applause, recognition, and even admiration. That day, she realized that she had truly begun turning insults into inspiration. Every moment of doubt, every harsh word from the past had led her to this moment of triumph. Her confidence and achievements did not make her arrogant. She remained humble and grounded, aware that life would always bring challenges. She embraced failures as learning experiences and treated criticism as an opportunity to grow. She had learned that true strength was not the absence of struggle, but the ability to navigate it with grace and resilience. Her past struggles became stories of strength that she could draw upon, reminding herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. She also developed a deep sense of empathy. Having faced judgment and ridicule, she became acutely aware of the struggles of others. She made an effort to support peers, offer guidance, and celebrate their successes. This empathy extended beyond her immediate circle, influencing her approach to teamwork, leadership, and community involvement. She realized that overcoming adversity had not only strengthened her, but had also taught her how to uplift others. As she approached the end of this phase of her college journey, she reflected on how far she had come. The shy, insecure girl from a small town had transformed into a resilient, confident young woman. She had faced harsh criticism, social challenges, and self-doubt, yet each obstacle had become a stepping stone toward her growth. The city, once intimidating, had become a place of learning, opportunity, and personal discovery. The insults that once haunted her no longer held power. They had become the very fuel that propelled her forward. By now, she had developed a vision for her future. She wanted to pursue a career that allowed her to make a difference, to inspire others, and to continue learning and growing. She understood that success would not be handed to her, and that challenges would continue to arise. But she also knew that she had cultivated the resilience, determination, and mindset to face whatever came her way. She had learned to embrace both failure and success, knowing that each was part of a larger journey. Her relationships with friends, mentors, and family grew stronger during this time. She valued the guidance and encouragement she received, but she also knew that her growth depended on her own efforts. The balance between independence and support became a cornerstone of her development. She understood that true confidence came not from external validation, but from the quiet knowledge that she was capable, resilient, and continually learning. By the end of this period, she had not only achieved academic and personal milestones, but had also laid the groundwork for the next stage of her life. She had discovered that turning insults into inspiration was not a single event but a process, a journey of self-awareness, perseverance, and transformation. She had learned to see challenges as opportunities, criticism as guidance, and setbacks as lessons. Most importantly, she had cultivated an inner strength that would carry her through future trials and triumphs. The turning point was not dramatic or sudden. It was a gradual accumulation of experiences, choices, and reflections. Each small success, each moment of resilience, reinforced the belief that she was capable of achieving her goals. The insults that once felt crushing had been transformed into reminders of her journey, markers of how far she had come and how much further she could go. As she prepared to enter the next phase of her life, she felt a sense of readiness and anticipation. She understood that challenges would continue to arise, that not everyone would support her, and that criticism might still cross her path. But she also knew that she possessed the tools, mindset, and determination to face whatever came her way. She had turned past pain into purpose, transforming each insult into a step toward growth and success. The young woman who had once felt small and powerless was now a force of determination, resilience, and inspiration, ready to embrace the future with courage and confidence. As she entered the later years of college, her growth became more visible to everyone around her. The girl who had once felt invisible and small had evolved into someone who carried herself with quiet confidence. Her experiences had taught her resilience, and she now approached every challenge with determination rather than fear. Each insult or setback she had once suffered now served as a reminder of her strength and a motivation to keep moving forward. One of the defining moments came when she took on a major project that would showcase her skills to the entire university. It was a research initiative that required months of planning, collaboration, and public presentation. She faced skepticism from some classmates who doubted her abilities, as well as criticism from peers who thought the project was too ambitious. Yet instead of letting these doubts shake her, she used them as fuel. She worked tirelessly, researching, organizing, and refining every detail. Each setback became a lesson, each critique a guide for improvement. Her determination inspired her team as well. Initially unsure of her leadership, her teammates soon recognized her commitment and clarity of vision. She learned the importance of listening, delegating, and encouraging others while still maintaining focus on the project's goals. It was not always easy. There were disagreements, delays, and moments of frustration. But her ability to remain calm and persistent guided the team to work together effectively. Throughout the process, she experienced moments that reminded her of her past struggles. A few individuals still tried to undermine her efforts, dismissing her ideas or questioning her capabilities. But she no longer reacted with self-doubt or hurt feelings. Instead, she calmly addressed concerns, provided evidence, and continued moving forward. The lessons from years of facing criticism had taught her that the opinions of others only mattered if she allowed them to. She had learned to distinguish between constructive feedback and baseless negativity, and this discernment strengthened her leadership and confidence. As the project progressed, she also grew personally. She became more comfortable speaking in public, sharing her thoughts with clarity and conviction. She volunteered to mentor younger students, teaching them not only academic skills but also the importance of resilience, self-belief, and perseverance. Her own experiences of overcoming insults and doubt became valuable lessons she could pass on. Through these interactions, she discovered that empowering others brought a sense of fulfillment and reinforced her own growth. Her family watched with pride as they saw her transformation unfold. They noticed the difference in her confidence, independence, and ability to navigate challenges. Her parents often reminded her of the values they had instilled, but now she applied them in ways they had never imagined. Their support remained steady, but she had grown into her own person, capable of making decisions and learning from consequences. The final presentation of the project was a turning point in her life. Standing before a large audience of students, professors, and community members, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Memories of past failures and insults flashed in her mind, but they no longer frightened her. Instead, they reminded her of how far she had come. She presented her work with clarity, passion, and authority, answering questions confidently and engaging the audience. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and the recognition she received was a testament to her hard work and determination. This achievement was not just about academic success. It symbolized the culmination of years of perseverance. She realized that the journey from being ridiculed to being respected had not been about proving others wrong. It had been about proving to herself that she was capable, resilient, and deserving of success. The insults that once weighed heavily on her were now transformed into motivation, guiding her toward meaningful accomplishments. Her growing reputation opened new doors. Invitations to participate in conferences, workshops, and collaborative projects came her way. Each opportunity challenged her to step outside her comfort zone, to engage with new ideas, and to continue learning. She embraced these experiences with enthusiasm, knowing that growth often came from pushing beyond familiar boundaries. Her ability to handle criticism and turn it into inspiration set her apart, allowing her to thrive even in competitive environments. Outside academics, she maintained a balance in her personal life. She nurtured friendships that encouraged growth, support, and mutual respect. She became a mentor, a confidant, and a source of encouragement for those facing challenges similar to her own. Through these relationships, she learned the importance of empathy, compassion, and patience. She understood that personal success was meaningful, not only when achieved individually, but also when used to inspire and uplift others. Her experiences taught her to embrace failure as part of the learning process. She understood that mistakes were inevitable, but they did not define her. Instead, they provided valuable lessons, opportunities to improve, and a chance to demonstrate resilience. This mindset allowed her to approach new challenges with confidence rather than fear, viewing obstacles as opportunities rather than threats. She also became aware of the broader impact of her journey. By overcoming insults and criticism, she had developed a platform to inspire others. She spoke at community events, shared her experiences through writing, and actively encouraged young women to pursue their dreams despite societal pressures. Her story became a source of hope and motivation, illustrating that adversity could be transformed into strength. She realized that her growth was not just personal. It had the potential to create a ripple effect, inspiring countless others to persevere and believe in themselves. During this period, she faced moments of self-reflection. She thought about the years she had spent feeling small and powerless, the tears shed over harsh words, and the times she had doubted her own abilities. Yet she also recognized the power of resilience, determination, and self-belief. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had shaped her into a confident, capable, and empathetic individual. Each insult and setback had contributed to her growth, teaching her lessons that could not have been learned in any other way. As graduation approached, she felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond academic success. She had navigated years of challenges, criticism, and self-doubt, emerging stronger and more confident. The city that had once seemed intimidating had become a place of opportunity and personal growth. Her achievements were a testament to her perseverance, and the lessons she had learned would guide her in the years to come. She began planning the next stage of her life with clarity and purpose. She wanted to pursue a career that aligned with her passions, allowed her to make a difference, and continued to challenge her. She also sought to continue mentoring and inspiring others, sharing the tools and strategies that had helped her overcome obstacles. She understood that her journey was ongoing, and that true growth required continuous effort, reflection, and courage. Through all these experiences, she maintained a sense of humility and gratitude. She recognized the importance of support from friends, mentors, and family, but she also acknowledged the strength she had developed within herself. She had learned to face criticism without fear, to embrace challenges without hesitation, and to use adversity as a catalyst for growth. The transformation from a shy, insecure girl to a confident, inspiring young woman was complete, yet she knew that personal development was a lifelong process. Looking back, she realized that the insults and criticism she had endured were not wasted experiences. They had shaped her character, strengthened her resolve, and provided valuable lessons that she could draw upon in every aspect of her life. By turning negativity into motivation, she had cultivated resilience, self-belief, and a sense of purpose that would guide her for years to come. As she prepared to leave college and step into the professional world, she carried with her not just knowledge and skills, but also the wisdom gained from years of overcoming adversity. She understood that challenges would continue to arise, but she was confident in her ability to face them with courage, determination, and grace. The young woman who had once been defined by insults had now become a symbol of inspiration, proof that resilience, perseverance, and self-belief could transform hardship into achievement and empower others along the way. After graduation, she stepped into the professional world with a mix of excitement and nervousness. The real world was larger and more complex than college, but she felt ready. She had faced countless challenges before, learned to turn insults into motivation, and grown in confidence and resilience. These lessons were now her strongest allies as she navigated the next phase of life. Her first job was in a competitive environment where she was often the youngest and least experienced. At first, some colleagues doubted her abilities and made subtle remarks that echoed the insults of her past. She could have let these comments discourage her, but she chose a different path. She worked diligently, asked thoughtful questions, and continuously sought to improve her skills. Slowly, her dedication and intelligence began to earn recognition. The same environment that once intimidated her became a place where she could shine. She faced many challenges in her work. Deadlines were tight, tasks were demanding, and the pressure was intense. There were moments when she felt exhausted and uncertain, times when she remembered how easily criticism could hurt her in the past. But now she responded differently. She viewed difficulties as opportunities to learn and grow, and criticism as guidance rather than a personal attack. Every problem she solved, every project she completed successfully, reinforced her belief in her abilities. As her career progressed, she became known not just for her skills, but also for her attitude. She treated every challenge as a chance to learn, remained patient in the face of difficulties, and supported her colleagues whenever possible. People noticed her calm confidence, her willingness to help others, and her ability to turn obstacles into achievements. She had learned that true leadership and influence came not from asserting superiority, but from inspiring and empowering those around her. She also continued to focus on personal growth. She read widely, attended workshops, and sought mentors who could guide her journey. Every experience, whether positive or challenging, became a lesson she could apply to future situations. Her ability to reflect, adapt, and persevere became one of her greatest strengths. She understood that growth was continuous and that learning never stopped, no matter how successful she became. Over time, she began to mentor others in her field. She shared her experiences of overcoming criticism and doubt, teaching young professionals how to navigate challenges with resilience and confidence. She emphasized that insults and setbacks were not signs of failure, but opportunities to grow stronger and more capable. Her guidance helped others transform fear into determination, just as she had learned to do. The impact of her mentorship extended beyond individual careers. It created a ripple effect, encouraging a culture of encouragement and support in her workplace. Her personal life also flourished. She built meaningful relationships with friends and colleagues who shared her values and supported her goals. She prioritized spending time with people who encouraged growth, honesty, and empathy, while maintaining distance from those who sought to undermine or discourage her. This balance allowed her to maintain emotional stability, focus on her ambitions, and continue her journey of self-improvement. Despite her growing success, she never forgot her past struggles. She often reflected on the times she had been ridiculed, overlooked, or doubted. These memories, once painful, had become reminders of how far she had come. They reminded her of the strength she had cultivated, the resilience she had developed, and the determination that had carried her to success. She realized that adversity had been her teacher, and that each challenge had been a stepping stone toward the person she had become. One significant moment in her career reinforced this realization. She was invited to speak at a major industry conference, sharing her insights and experiences with a large audience. Standing on stage, she remembered the shy girl who had trembled at every insult, the student who had feared criticism, the young professional who had doubted her own worth. Now she spoke with clarity, confidence, and authenticity. The audience responded with enthusiasm and respect. She had turned every insult, every doubt into inspiration, not just for herself, but for everyone listening. This experience solidified her understanding of her purpose. She realized that her journey was about more than personal success. It was about using her story to inspire others, to show that resilience and self-belief could overcome negativity and obstacles. She became an advocate for personal growth, empowerment, and perseverance, sharing her message through talks, writing, and mentorship. She also used her achievements to give back to her community. She organized workshops for young people, especially those who had faced similar challenges of criticism or self-doubt. She emphasized practical strategies for resilience, self-confidence, and growth. She shared her journey openly, illustrating that success was not about perfection but about persistence, learning, and turning challenges into opportunities. The feedback from these sessions was overwhelmingly positive, reinforcing the importance of sharing her story. Her journey taught her the value of patience and perspective. She understood that growth often required time, effort, and repeated effort. She no longer sought instant validation or approval from others. Instead, she focused on consistent improvement, learning from each experience and measuring success by personal growth and fulfillment, rather than external recognition. This mindset allowed her to navigate both professional and personal challenges with calm assurance. Throughout her journey, she remained committed to self-reflection and continuous learning. She kept journals, noted her achievements, and recorded lessons from mistakes. This practice reinforced her resilience and provided a clear record of progress, helping her maintain perspective during difficult times. By understanding her own journey, she was better equipped to help others navigate theirs. By now, she had become a role model for many. Her colleagues admired her perseverance, young professionals sought her guidance, and community members recognized her contributions. Her story of turning insults into inspiration had reached far beyond her immediate circle. She realized that the challenges she had faced, the criticism she had endured, and the struggles she had overcome had given her the tools not only to succeed, but to empower and inspire others. She also recognized the importance of gratitude. She remained thankful for the people who supported her, the opportunities she received, and even the challenges that had shaped her resilience. Gratitude grounded her, keeping her humble, focused, and connected to her values. It reminded her that her journey was a combination of personal effort, supportive relationships, and life's lessons. Looking back, she saw a life transformed. The girl who had once been defined by insults had become a woman defined by her courage, resilience, and ability to inspire. Every challenge she faced, every harsh word she had once endured, had contributed to her growth. The lessons she had learned were not just for herself. They were tools she could share with others, empowering them to overcome their own obstacles and achieve their dreams. She understood that life would continue to present challenges, that criticism would arise, and that moments of doubt would occur, but she had cultivated the inner strength, self-belief, and perspective to navigate these experiences with grace and determination. She had turned her past struggles into a foundation for success and inspiration, proving that resilience and perseverance could overcome negativity and obstacles. As she moved forward, she carried her story with pride and purpose. She knew that the journey was ongoing, that personal growth and achievement were continuous processes, but she also knew that she was capable of facing whatever came her way, transforming challenges into opportunities, and inspiring others along the path. The young woman who had once felt small and powerless had become a symbol of hope, strength, and resilience. In the end, she realized that turning insults into inspiration was not a single moment or achievement. It was a lifetime of choices, reflections, and actions. It was the decision to persevere, to learn, and to grow despite the opinions of others. It was the ability to transform pain into motivation and doubt into determination. And as she continued to move through life, she knew that this mindset would guide her, inspire others, and ensure that every challenge could become a stepping stone toward a meaningful and fulfilling future.